with darker nights, the winter is a real big thing for me. Trying to keep that positivity up. From your experience and the people that you work with, do you find that those darker nights and those colder months really impact our mood?
They certainly can do. I think we have to be a little bit careful. Yeah, the opposite is true in the summer. So we know that we're kind of buzzing with energy in the summer because sunshine creates what's called serotonin, which is basically a feel-good chemical. So sunshine naturally boosts our immune system and our happiness. And of course, that's in short supply this time of year, the sunshine. So, but there are other things because I spent about 40 years also not feeling particularly great in the autumn and winter because they're dark and they're cold. But then I discovered this Danish concept. You might have heard of it, hygge. And hygge is a beautiful thing because hygge essentially it hasn't got a direct English translation. It sort of means coziness or comfort or being enveloped in snuggliness. If that's not, it's not quite that. In fact, the Welsh have got a word, cwtch. So cwtch, if anybody speaks Welsh, then cwtch is quite close to hygge. So essentially, hygge is this. And I think autumn and winter are so perfect for noticing the beautiful, ordinary things, being snuggled up under your blanket while you watch a box series on Netflix, or going for a walk, but being all wrapped up. And so the wind's buffeting you, but you're all wrapped up in your coat and your boots. It's those kind of things. That can, I think, so basically happiness doesn't have to be some big set piece of going to Barbados on a cruise. It can be these beautiful little autumnal moments, looking out of a window and noticing Mother Nature is closing down and the trees are changing colour. That, I think, is where autumnal happiness really lies, in the moment. In pure mindfulness, right? There's no past and there's no future, there's only the present moment. So a plot spoiler for everybody listening to this is your entire life is lived in the present moment. But what the modern world's really good at, mate, is making us a bit dissatisfied with this moment or anxious, or this moment's not good enough. So we end up rushing through life at 100 miles an hour to get to a moment that's going to be better than the one we're in. We're impatient. So we're trying to get to another moment. But of course, mindfulness says there is no moment. There's only the moment you're in. So therefore, instead of trying to rush through it at 100 miles an hour, hygge and mindfulness are about trying to get into the moment and snuggle into it and notice it. Because the truth is, mate, without getting too deep, is if you can find a way of falling in love with the present moment, then you've fallen in love with life itself. But the question is how? How are we supposed to do that when the world is 100 miles an hour? And this is where I think kind of mindfulness comes into the fore and human relationships and all that beautiful stuff.
What simple things can we do? Because I think mindfulness kind of has this thought. We all think of mindfulness as being some big thing or
Yeah.
some yoga retreat somewhere.
Yeah.
When it can be just the simple daily things. And we've talked about
It
walking, we've talked about
it
getting
is.
outside. What are those other simple things that we can do?
Well, your listeners, are, in Cornwall and Devon or wherever down in the southwest, what a beautiful place to practice hygge. You don't have to sit with your legs crossed, omming for 3 hours. You're just taking your dog for a walk on the beach or in the hills and just marveling at the beauty of Cornwall. Right, that's hygge right there. So you don't have to, like I say, instead of rushing through life. In fact, the Japanese have got a term, Shinrin-yoku, which is essentially going for a walk, but instead of a fast walk, it's walking with your senses fully open. It's like noticing things you wouldn't normally notice, listening to things, feeling the wind on your face, and just opening your senses and going for a walk in nature with your senses fully alert. Then what you will do is you will be in that moment. You will notice things you wouldn't ordinarily notice. And all it's good for your well-being. And I just think that when the world's doing its worst, which quite frankly it is at the moment, you switch the news on, it's brutal and relentless out there. And I think when the world's doing its worst, it becomes even more important that we know how to be at our best, which is why mind is so important, right? The world is kind of doing all sorts of stuff to us at the moment, and finding peace in the moment. That's really where the magic source of happiness really is. This is homework for anybody listening to this because I love it. So, are you a hugger, mate? Are you a huggy person?
I am, but the people around me aren't.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, the science of hugging, even if you're a non-hugger, we just want to take this off the Doctor of Happiness, right? Is the average hug, if you are a huggy person, the average hug lasts 2.1 seconds. So, if you are a hugger or you watch huggers, it'll be like 1, 2, finished. But here's the homework for everybody listening to this. For the love to transfer between two people, a hug actually needs to last 7 seconds or longer, which is a long time, right? And it's not for strangers in the park. That's a bit weird. There's something called Dunbar's number in positive psychology, which is basically means that you spend 60% of your life with about 12 people. So this is the absolute core of your life, your closest family, your closest friends. So just for those, they need to love you and you need to love them back. Is I want everybody listening to this, even if you're a non-hugger, is to experiment with the 7-second hugging. Right? It's a fantastic thing. I mean, don't count out loud because that kills it. I did learn that early on. But if you just hold on for 7 seconds, the beauty of it is that's just long enough for the love to transfer. You don't have to say I love you. A 7-second hug is basically an I love you hug. And I tell you what, let's finish with like a really big point. If you cast your mind back to the pandemic and think about the social distancing, the social isolation, whereas essentially you and I know, Richard, that human beings, we are social creatures. People need people.